Shalawam, and welcome back to The Hidden Chosen. I am Hadassabat Saiwan, and this is End Times Prophecy Watch. And now this is part 10, where we're going to take a look at the second Exodus. We know many of our brethren are talking about the second Exodus, talking about different things concerning this event. And I want to take another look at it. I have done a few studies on it already, but if we're going to take a look at the end times, we have to take a look at the second Exodus. So let's get started. This will be a brief yet detailed look at the soon coming event of the second Exodus, as I've covered this in numerous studies done previously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach those studies to this video so that you can take a look at those other studies, because these studies are in depth and they're detailed, and it shows with proof, with scriptures, who will be going in this second Exodus and why. So this is the issue that we're facing today. Many people, they're jumping on the bandwagon. Yes, we're going to have a second Exodus, but they don't know who is going into the second Exodus, and they don't know why. They do not understand the plan of Allah Hayam, and He has a plan. Okay? Yes, we had the first Exodus where there were 12 tribes that went into the wilderness, but the second time around is going to be different. There's going to be a slight change. It's still going to be Yasharaal, but you're going to have to figure out which group, because right now, the 12 tribes of Yasharaal are divided into two groups, two nations, two kingdoms. All right? So let us look at some of the false teachings being taught amongst our brethren. Number one, there are many of our brethren teaching that the 12 tribes of Yasharaal will be going into the wilderness in the second Exodus. This is false teaching. The Bible clearly shows that Allah Hayam Yahweh divided the 12 tribes, which were once one kingdom, one nation, into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So how then can 12 tribes go into the wilderness, because we're not together? And we will be made one kingdom only one way and at one particular time. And that hasn't happened yet. So all these teachings about 12 tribes going into the wilderness are in error, great error, and they're misleading people. All right? Point number two. Some are teaching that the Gentiles, who are Christians, are also going to join with the 12 tribes to go in the second Exodus. So they take their teaching from the letters of Paul, which talks about the church being grafted in to the lineage of Yasharaal. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. What is going to happen at the end of the age, at the end of the age, when Al Hayam has completed all his judgments and he has sifted the Gentiles, the ones that remain faithful to him and to his people, they will receive a portion of our inheritance. And yes, if at this point of time you want to say they're grafted in, you can say that. But this grafting in at this point of time is not going to happen. Because like the southern kingdom, which are being sifted right now, and then the northern kingdom will be next to be sifted to root out the rebels from amongst the righteous, the same must be done to the Gentiles. Okay? What is good for the goose must be good for the gander. And so, Christians who are under a pagan deity or pagan deities cannot just automatically jump through the hoops and the loops to escape the judgments coming to them. All right? Whether they're Christians or not, whether they believe in Yahweh or not, they have to remain to go through the judgments. Those judgments will help to determine whether they will serve Allah Hayam or not, whether they will remain faithful to Him or not. This is the kind of judgment that all of these three groups will have to go through: the southern kingdom, the northern kingdom, and then the Gentiles. No one can escape this sifting. It is to help to determine who you will worship. All right? So I don't really care for this terminology about being grafted in. What is going to happen is that the Gentiles who will come in with us will receive a portion of our inheritance to serve us. They're not going to have, they're not coming in to be on our same level. We were servants to them, they are coming in to be servants to us. And yet they will be treated way better than how we were treated, how our forefathers were treated. They will be given land, they will be given houses, they will be given everything to live in peace and with prosperity. And the love of Allah Hayam. He will love them. Okay? All right, let's move on to point number 3. Some are saying that the second Exodus will be with ships, luxury liners, as we were taken in ships, and so we will leave again in ships, and this is false teaching. And the word luxury there is not spelled correctly. So this talk about people going in luxury liners to the second Exodus is a new doctrine, new false doctrine that has popped up like a terrible case of acne, because people are hearing this and they're running with it. Now, when you look at the first Exodus, they were on foot. All right? They had to go through some hardships. It was all part of their testing to prove whether or not they love Allah Hayam or not, whether they will remain obedient to Him or not. And we know how that turned out. All that came out of Goshen, with the exception of 2 families, they perished in the wilderness, and it was their children, the first generation in the wilderness, that went in and took the land, the promised land. All right, the ones that were slaves could not do it because they were rebellious for the most part, and they were disobedient, and they had no faith. And so they could not go in to take the promise that was given to their forefathers, to our forefathers. So when you think of a luxury liner, these cruise ships that they're claiming is going to take the 12 tribes of Yasharaal to the wilderness, that doesn't sound like they're going to be going through any kind of turmoil, no, any kind of testing, any kind of trials that can help to determine where their hearts lie. How will Allah Hayam prove you when you're living in luxury? You got everything at your fingertips on these ships. Doesn't sound like His way. But then there's some that will argue, well, we left in ships and we will be returning in ships. Well, we were taken. Get your facts right. We were taken from the west coast of Africa in ships, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we will return there in ships. All right? And by the way, it was the southern kingdom that was taken in ships, in the slave masters' ships, not the 12 tribes. All right, let's move on to point number 4. Some are teaching that the wilderness is in Africa. This is a false teaching. Africa is not our land. Africa, after the flood, Noah drew up 3 portions of lands for his sons to draw one of those lots. The lot that fell to Ham was the African region, the hot region. The lot that fell to Japheth was the cold region. That would be the Europeans and the Indians and those other peoples, the Asians. The middle portion came out for Shem. And Noah was delighted. He did prophesy before they drew lots. He did prophesy that this was going to belong to Shem, and it fell to him. And this was all according to Allah Hayam Yahweh. Now, I've done another study concerning this. The true location of our land is following after this study. All right, so I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but people are claiming that Africa belongs to us. Africa is our land. Eden, the Garden of Odan, is there in Africa. All these different false teachings, misleading our people to think that we're Africans. We're not Africans. We're from the descendant of Sham, descendants of Ham. 2 different brothers, 2 different lineages. But it sounds good to the ears of our people because they don't really have to do anything. They just got to wait, get on those ships, and go to Africa. That's all they got to do. Get a passport, get their Georgie bundles together, jump on those cruise ships when they come into the port, grab their reparations, whatever they're handed out, and be on your way. Sounds good to the ears. Sounds appealing. Sounds delightful to the flesh. Because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to give up anything. You don't have to sacrifice anything. You just carry on living as you are and receive all and above your wants and your needs. And in style too. All of this is false teaching. And there's some people that are really pushing the envelope when it comes to Africa. Yes, you might look at an old map and see that there's certain names on those old maps that resemble some of the names that we see in Israel right now. For example, Jerusalem. But Jerusalem is not the correct name of our city. It is Yasharaal. And how many people know that if they can change the Bible, the names and titles and certain things in the Bible, take things out, put things in, what would you think that they would do with maps? Don't you think they'll do the same thing? To keep the narrative going, the lies flowing? And a lot of people are falling for the lies, falling for the deceit. All right, let's move on. Point number 5. Some are teaching that our land, Yasharaal, is in South Africa. This is also a false teaching. It's not South Africa, it's not Kenya, it's not Congo, it's not Nigeria. It's none of those African regions. None of them belong to us. Point number 6. Some are teaching that the 12 tribes will be taking ships to South Africa, then to start the second Exodus in the wilderness, also in Africa. This is another false teaching. And people are loving these false teachings, these false doctrines. What would the point be for you to jump on a ship to go to, let's pretend that Africa is our land. We go to South Africa. They claim that is our land. That's where Jerusalem is and all the different places that you hear of in the land in Israel. So what would be the point in taking a ship to South Africa, which is our land? I'm just saying this. I don't believe this. And don't you believe it, but I'm just saying this. I'm just hitting a point here. Then to get off the ship, wait a while, and then go on a second exodus. To where? Where are you going to? Where are you getting off? You're getting off in South Africa, off the luxury liner, then to take a trip into the wilderness to go where and why. So you see, when you start on the wrong leg, everything that comes out from these persons that are teaching these false doctrines, everything will be a lie. And the lie just starts to mushroom and blossom into this fantastic idea that tickle the ears and massage the flesh and make people feel good. Like, yeah, I like this idea. I love this idea. And then they have dreams and visions about it too. Oh, I have a dream about us, the 12 tribes, taking these boats, these ships, and going to Africa. There's so many people with this false teaching. Avoid these people at all costs. It is a false teaching. They're lies. All right? They're lies. From the moment they call themselves a prophet or a prophetess, you back away from them. They're liars. We don't need prophets anymore today. The prophets were used to prophesy everything that we are reading in the Bible concerning the end times, concerning Yasharaal, the 12 tribes, the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, how we're going to come back together again, and also the end times and all the judgments that are coming upon this earth. What else can will Al Hayam add to what he has already completely said through his prophets of old? And all we're waiting for is for the fulfillment of those prophecies. Some have been fulfilled, and there are others that are coming that must be fulfilled so that this world can come to an end with all its evil and all its wickedness, and so Allah Hayam can establish his kingdom on the earth once again, once and for all. All right? But when you don't have Rawak HaKadash, you will have another spirit that will be whispering these things in your ears while you're sleeping and even while you're awake. They're whispering things in people's ears while they're sleeping and while they are awake to tell the people that these are the words of Allah Hayam Yahweh. In fact, they don't call him that. They call him Yeshaya. They call him Ahaya. They call him Yahuwah. They call him Jesus Christ, Lord God. And I've said this before and I will say it again. When you see them or when you hear them calling on the Most High by thee and his Son by these pagan titles, you already know who they are. They're false and they're liars. Stay away from them. Simple. These false teachings come from false teachers and those who call themselves prophets and prophetesses, receiving visions and dreams that the 12 tribes will be going in a second exodus to a location in Africa. It doesn't make any sense. If the dream or vision does not line up with the scriptures, then they are false. And the persons giving these dreams and visions are also false. Because Allah Hayam will not go against his word. But false prophets and false prophetesses will. All these false preachers, these false apostles, they are leading the people of Al-Hayam astray. They're seducing them into lies and deception, into the darkness. All right? Our people will never learn. Let's go to the book of Debarayam, that's Deuteronomy chapter 13, starting from verse 1. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spoke unto you, saying, Let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them, you shall not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yahweh Alahayak, that's your Alahayam, that is singular, personal. For Yahweh Alahayak proves you. He's testing you to know whether you love Yahweh Alahayak with all your heart and with all your soul. Now, there are some people that will say, well, these prophets and prophetesses, they had their dreams or their visions, and one or two of them came to pass. So they're bona fide, they're legitimate. But what Allah Hayam Yahweh here is saying, that if the sign, they give you a sign or a wonder and it comes to pass, these dreamer of dreams and these people with visions, and yet on the other hand, they're leading you astray to go after other gods. They're not from Him. And He permitted that sign and that wonder to come to pass to test us, to test whether or not we are going to heed to His word that He has taught us, or whether we're going to heed the word of a man or a woman. All right? Just because what they said came to pass doesn't mean it came from Him. And at the same time, it also says to us, He is permitting this to prove us. So these ones that are preaching and teaching and prophesying about the second Exodus, going in ships and going to Africa, you're going to hear things that may line up with what they're saying. Allah Hayam is allowing this to prove us. You see, once you know the truth, you cannot be sucked into the vacuum of lies and deceit. And you will not heed to anything that these people are saying because you already know the truth. This now becomes a challenge for us to choose whether or not we are going to believe what Ruach HaKadosh had taught us or is teaching us, or we're going to believe the words that are coming out from the lips of these people. And many people are choosing to listen to the words of these people because they sound good to their ears. And this is what they want. This is what they desire. So he is proving the southern kingdom. Right now we're being sifted because he wants to prove what is in our hearts, whether we love him or we not. If we love him, we will follow after him and heed to his word. If we don't love him, we will heed to the word of a man or a woman. All right. We were warned by Hamashiach that in the last days many false prophets will rise up to deceive many. But we are not to take heed to anyone leading us away from the truth, the word of Allah Hayam, to another word, their word that they have received from their gods. So we are to heed only when the word spoken lines up with the scriptures, which were words spoken by the prophets and the servants of Allah Hayam Yahweh. Words that he spoke through their lips for our behalf, on our behalf for this day. because he knew that the days are going to grow darker with the lies and the deceit. And because we are scattered to the four corners, we no longer have the prophets. We no longer have the apostles. We no longer have the teachers like we once had. We no longer have the priesthood. The priesthood was also responsible for teaching the people about Al-Hayam and about worship. All of that has been removed from us because of the rebellion of our forefathers. This is what happened for our forefathers when they were taken in slavery. They were completely stripped and were given another God or gods to worship. And it's only now that we are being awakened to the truth of our identity and the truth about the identity of our Savior and our Creator that we're now picking up the pieces and hungering and thirsting after Him, after His righteousness. And He said He will fill us when we hunger and thirst after His righteousness. And this is what He wants from us now at this stage. All right? He wants us to come after Him, to pursue Him. Don't pursue these fables, these people that speak swelling words of vanity. He does not want us to pursue those people, but to pursue Him. And these people, if they were truthful, if they were appointed by Allah Hayam Yahweh, they will lead you only to Him, not to themselves. All right, let's read on. The 12 tribes of Yasharaal were divided into two kingdoms, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And today we are still divided. We have been divided since the reign of Shalaman's son, who is Rehoboam, and we will remain as two kingdoms until Hamashiach comes again, the second time as Malak on the earth. It will be then that he will cause these two kingdoms to be one in his hand, just before his millennial reign begins on the earth. So all these people that are talking about 12 tribes going into the wilderness, all right, they obviously have not read the book of Yasharaal, the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, where it speaks, and he will make the two kingdoms, the two nations, one in his hand. That has not happened yet. No man on this earth will be able to do this thing. Only Hamashiach, when he returns to the earth. It will be one of the first things that he will do before we all ride out to the valley of Jehoshaphat to confront these armies that will come out against Hamashiach and his people. All right. All right, let's read Yasharaal chapter 37, verse 15. The word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Moreover, you son of man, take you one stick and write upon it for Yahweh, that's Judah, and for Habanai Yasharaal his companions. So Yasharaal his companions are the other tribe and a half. That would be the tribe of Benjamin, Benaiah, Mayam, and the half tribe of Lewi, who is Levi. Those are the companions to Yahweh. Yahweh is the chief tribe of the southern kingdom. This is the southern kingdom. Then take another stick and write upon it for Yahweh, that's Joseph. The stick of Opariam, that's Ephraim. And for all the house of Yasharaal his companions. So the tribe of Yahweh slash Opariam, they're the chief tribe for the northern kingdom. So the house of Yasharaal, his companions, will be the other 8.5 tribes. Because Yahweh, or I should say, the tribe of Opariam is indirectly And at the same time, directly, the tribe of Yahusat. The same thing with Manasseh. All right? They're all connected to the tribe of Yahusat. So sometimes you see Yahusat, sometimes you see Opariah. They're all one and the same. All right? They were the sons of Yahusat, the sons of Joseph. Verse 17, and join them one another into one stick. So he told him, you take one stick and join it to the end, one end to match the other end, and hold it together in your hand to make it look like one stick. And they shall become one in your hand. They're supposed to look like one stick, not two sticks side by side, but it is supposed to look like one stick. So you put one end to the other and you hold them together, and they will they will look like one stick in your hand. Verse 18, and when Habaniah of your people, the children of your people, shall speak unto you, saying, will you not show us what you mean by these? Say unto them, thus said Yahweh Elohim, behold, I will take the stick of Yahusap, which is in the hand of Opariah, and the tribes of Yasharaal his fellows, that's the northern kingdom, and I will put them with him, even with the stick of Yahuwah, that's the southern kingdom, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. Did he say, I will make them one in the hand of another deliverer? He said, my hand. I'm going to do this thing. Why? Because he was the one who divided up the 12 tribes into two kingdoms, and he is going to bring them back together again. And when there were two kingdoms, they warred against each other. It was enmity. The northern kingdom warred against the southern kingdom. But Alahayam was with the southern kingdom, so the northern kingdom was always defeated until they were taken in slavery by the Assyrians. And then after their captivity was over, they were led into Africa. All right? Because if they had come back to the land, there would have been war all over again. So what Allah Hayam is going to do this time around, he's going to remove the rebels first before he brings the two kingdoms together. Because by that time, the rebels would be, they're the ones that are hateful, rebellious, resentful, and they bring, their mess amongst other people to create chaos and confusion. So what he's going to do is to remove that mess, remove that pollution, that corruption, those corrupted people, to have a righteous remnant that will love him. And because we love him, we will love each other. There'll be no more enmity. All right, let's move on. Verse 20, and the sticks whereon you write shall be in your hand before their eyes. And say unto them, thus said Yahweh Elohim, behold, I will take Habanah Yashraal, that's the northern kingdom, from among the heathen, where they be gone, and will bring them into their own land. Now that's who will be going into the second Exodus, because they are in Africa amongst the heathen, and it's from there that he is going to recover them and bring them into Yashraal. They're the ones that are going to be walking towards Yashraal, and they will dwell in Yashraal. The southern kingdom will be taken up off the earth until Hamashiach returns to the earth for his millennial reign. We will be returning with him. We will be the saints on white horses. Angels are never called saints, and these are not going to be the resurrected ones, these are going to be the redeemed ones, the living ones that were taken off the earth and returning with him. Verse 22. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Yasharaal. Read that carefully. I will make them, meaning the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, upon the mountains of Yasharaal, because Hamashiach, when he returns, he will reconstruct the Mount of Olives. He's going to split it open, make it bigger, and it's going to be transformed to be the Mount of Shalawam. And upon that mountain, he's going to establish his tabernacle. He's going to set up his tabernacle. And it is there that he will make the two nations one again. All right? That will be this time. And one Malak shall be Malak to them all, one king shall be king to them all, and there shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Has this happened yet? No. No, this has not happened yet. So how can 12 tribes go into a wilderness? We forget about the luxury liners. That's we know that is a blatant lie. But this subtle lie about 12 tribes going into the wilderness cannot happen. It cannot be, because we have not been made one nation, one kingdom as yet. Look, this is the scripture. Verse 23. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their Alahayam. And that is speaking of covenant. So he is going to cleanse us. Why? Because once the righteous remnant of the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom are regathered, we are going to wash in the sea of water to be purged permanently of our sin nature. So now we are incapable of sinning. And this will cause verse 23 to be fulfilled. Then we will eat of the tree of life, so we will be permanently holy, permanently righteous. Never, ever to sin again. All right? If we are still divided into two kingdoms currently, then it means that 12 tribes cannot and will not be going into the wilderness in the second Exodus. Only the northern kingdom will be leaving Africa, where they are currently living as Gentiles, to return to our land, Yasharaal, which is not in Africa. Christianity is a pagan religion, therefore all Christians are pagan worshippers. The second Exodus will be the deliverance of the northern kingdom alone, who are Habanai Yasharaal. They're also called the house of Yasharaal. In the first Exodus, there were a mixed multitude amongst our forefathers, which created problems with lusting and rebellion. So that's not going to happen again. This will not occur again, as only those of Yasharaal descent who will serve Alahayam will go on this Exodus, and not only serve Alahayam Yahweh, but believe in his son. All right. There will be a few rebels who will start this journey, but Alahayam will destroy them all by the fifth trumpet judgment. Judging by the scriptures above, the two kingdoms of Yasharaal will be made one kingdom in the hand of Hamashiach in the land of Yasharaal, and not in the second Exodus. The second Exodus will not make us one. It will be done in our land called Yasharaal, where the two kingdoms will come in together into that tabernacle that Hamashiach will raise up. Now, this is a future prophecy as we are still living as exiles today. So I don't know. And you see, another thing that some of our brethren have done is they have these 12 tribe charts, and they're claiming that all these different people, the Polynesians, the Asians, the Aborigines, they claim that they are our people when they're not. They're all Asians. They're all from the lineage of Japheth, who is Japheth. All right? They're not our people. Just because they're dark skinned doesn't make them us. Africans have dark skin, and they're not us. They're Hamites. All right? Jeremiah, book of Jeremiah, chapter 31, verse 1. At the same time said Yahweh, will I be Elohim of all the families of Yasharaal, and they shall be my people. Now, when you see all of the families of Yasharaal, he's speaking of the 9.5 tribes of the northern kingdom, not all 12 tribes. Don't let that word all throw you off. Let's read verse 2. After the southern kingdom is taken off the earth, the northern kingdom will be left here. They will be awakened to their identity. But they will have to face the beast empire and the anti-Messiah. And there will be a great war for 3.5 years between these two beasts and the northern kingdom, and they will be prevailed against. The northern kingdom will be prevailed against. So this is the war, the sword that the prophet is speaking about. So those that remain, those that were not slaughtered, will find grace in the wilderness because of the Exodus. Even Yasharaal, when I went to cause him to rest, because after this war, there'll be no more fighting, no more issues for the northern kingdom. They can begin their second Exodus in peace. Elohim will put those devils in prison. He's going, first of all, let me just backtrack a little bit. To cause this war at 3.5 year mark to end abruptly, the sixth seal will be opened. That is the great earthquake. And this would destroy all under the earth. All right? So that his people now can begin their second Exodus without any issues. And no one can touch them, speak to them, say anything to them, do anything to them. They're free to begin their Exodus. And that is the rest that they will achieve. All right? Because they don't have to fight anymore. The fighting is over. Verse number 3. Yahweh has appeared of old unto me, saying, yea, I have loved draw who belongs to him to himself. Not a man calling himself Moses, not a prophet or a prophetess. Elohim himself is going to draw these people from wherever they are into this Exodus. And it's going to be a casual walk. It's not going to be a fleeing or running. No. Verse number 4. Again, I will build you, and you shall be built, O virgin of Yasharaal. So the numbers are going to dwindle because of the war. So when he said, I'm going to rebuild you, northern kingdom, that means, and when he said, O virgin of Yasharaal, he's talking about the righteous remnant, the ones who will worship him and him alone. All right? And he will cause their numbers to multiply, just like the southern kingdom. Even while they're traveling on their way to Yasharaal, the land called Yasharaal, they will be multiplying. All right? You shall again be adorned with your tabrets, that's tambourines, and shall go forth in the dances of them that make merry. So now they're going on their exodus. There's going to be a certain point of time when all the rebels are completely eliminated from amongst them. And then they'll be pursuing no, not pursuing. That's not the right word. They'll be going on their second exodus now in a perpetual garden of Odan. All right. And because of this, because they will see no more wars, they will see no more of the judgments occurring on the earth, because this is by trumpet number 5. All right. They will be dancing again. They will be merry again. Okay. Verse 7. For thus saith Yahweh, sing with gladness for Yaokab, and shout among the chief of the nations. Publish you, praise you, and say, oh Yahweh, save your people, the remnant of Yasharaal. So this is the remnant that were not destroyed by the two beasts. Behold, I will bring them from the north country, and gather them from the coast of the earth, and with them the blind and the lame, the woman with child, and her that travails with child together. A great company shall return there. Now let's look at this north country. Some people think that it is speaking, that he is speaking of North America. No, it's not speaking of North America. What he's speaking of here, this is a prophetic and poetic way of speaking of the lands where they were in bondage. So back in our forefathers' day, it was in reference to Babylon, and it was also in reference to Assyria. Those were the two nations that uh, had our people in captivity. So when you hear about the North Country, it is a poetic phrase for the lands of our captivity. Wherever those lands are, those are the lands of our captivity. He called them the North Country. All right? And he said he's going to gather them from the coast of the earth, because some of our people are in certain locations near the coastline. All right? And I showed a map of this, and I believe it's still online. I'll check to see if I have it still online, where these 9.5 tribes were tracked down, not by even our own people. These were by scientists testing their D-N-A-, not specifically our people, but just those people in different regions of the world. And they mapped out that these particular 10 locations, these people had 9 D-N-A- series, which are three more than what other people have. Other people have only 6, but these 10 locations, which will be the locations of the 9.5 tribes, they have 9 series. All right? And it was puzzling to them. And we know that those are the tribes of the northern kingdom. So let's read on. So they're coming from the different coasts of the earth, and with them the blind, the lame, the woman with child, and her that travails with child, because they'll be having their children all the way to the land. All right? Verse 9, they shall come with weeping and with supplications will I lead them. So when they begin their exodus, there will be some weeping. There will be some people that will be lame. There will be some people that will be travailing. All these because their journey has just begun. But once um, the Garden of Odan appears before them, because we know the tree of life is in there. We know that the sea of water is in there. And we know that the leaves of the tree of life is for the healing of the nations. So then all of their sorrows, everything will just be gone. They'll be able to wash in the sea of water. They'll be able to eat of the tree of life and eat the leaves of the tree of life and be whole once again. Well, when, like, at the time of Adam and Hawa before they sinned. So that's the time when we were once whole, right? All right. He said, and he will lead them. All right. So he's going to lead them using this phenomenon called the Garden of Eden, and we will see that in the book of Joel, Yahweh coming up, all right? I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. What are these rivers of waters? That's the sea of water that will cleanse them, just like it will cleanse us. For I am Abba, I am father to Yasharaal, and Opariam is my firstborn. Speaking of the northern kingdom. So you see now, you have to read all the verses in order to understand who the families of Yasharaal are. He's speaking of Opariam, which is the chief tribe of the northern kingdom. Verse 10. Hear the word of Yahweh, O ye nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, He that scattered Yasharaal will gather him and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. So he scattered us, so he's going to bring us together. For Yahweh has redeemed Yaakov and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. So who is he speaking of here? He's speaking of the northern kingdom. When he refers to the northern kingdom as Yaakov and not the version of Yasharaal, he's speaking to all of the 9.5 tribes, rebels included. All right? And then he said, I ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. He's speaking of those two beasts, the beast empire and the anti-Messiah, because they were stronger than the northern kingdom. That's why they were able to prevail against them and slaughter many of them. Verse 12. Therefore they shall come and sing in the height of Shalawam, and shall flow together to the goodness of Yahweh, for wheat and for wine and for oil and for the young of the flock and of the herd, and their soul shall be as a watered garden, and they shall not sorrow any more at all. So they will come into Mount Shalawam. That's when Hamashiach had convert. That's when Hamashiach will convert Mount of Olives into Mount Shalawam. So he's always also letting us know that this is where they're going to come up and they're going to come together before him. And we know wheat, wine, and oil, and the young of the flocks and of the herd, they're used for sacrifices. So this is what Hamashiach is going to do to mend the breach between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and also at the same time to mend the breach between us and Elohim Yahweh forever. All right? So that's what these items are for: wheat, wine, oil, and the young of the flock and herd. All for sacrifices, because Hamashiach is going to offer sacrifices to heal the breach between us all. All right? Now let's go to Yahweh, the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 1. Blow you the trumpet in Shalawam, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh comes, for it is near at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. A great people and a strong, there has not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. So he's speaking of the northern kingdom when they come out. So when he's blowing the trumpet in Shalawam, Shalawam is not on the earth yet. Shalawam will be established when Hamashiach comes. But Shalawam is in the heavens, in the third heaven, where the southern kingdom will be. He took that mountain off the earth, along with the Garden of Eden. All right? So when he sounded his alarm, he's getting his people ready for their exodus. And when they leave, they're going to be a great people, a strong people. And it will be nothing like the world has ever seen before, this movement of these people. Now, don't forget that the whole landmass, all the continents will come together as one landmass because of the great earthquake. And people will witness this. Verse 3. A fire devours before them. That's Allah Hayam Yahweh. All right. Remember he said, I'm going to lead my people myself. So he's coming like a fire. That's his glory. And behind them a flame burns. That's him too. So nobody can touch them. They're sandwiched between the glory of Allah Hayam, front and back. The land is as the garden of Odan before them. That's what I was saying earlier. He's going to lead them in a perpetual garden so that they will not see any more of the judgments that will be occurring on the earth. They will not hear anything either. So this fire before them will create this garden of Odan, a place of fruitfulness, of peace, with water, the rivers of water, the tree of life, everything that they need and want and more will be in this garden that they will be walking in. And this garden will guide them to the land of Yasharaal. So remember, when our forefathers were led by a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of clouds by day, this will be Al Hayam's way of leading his people to the land of Yasharaal. They will not need a pillar of fire by night or a pillar of cloud by day, because where they're what is before them and behind them will give them the light, a perpetual light that they'll be walking in, they'll be continuously walking in. All right. And that will be Allah Hayam giving them permanent rest. This will be their time of rest. No more wars, no more fussing, no more sorrows, no more tears, no more fears, nothing. This now they are walking in this garden until they reach Yasharaal, and Yasharaal will be transformed to be like the Garden of Odan. Because by that time, the two witnesses would have already finished their prophesying and cleaning the land for the northern kingdom to arrive. When they arrive, there'll be no building standing, nothing standing. But Al Hayam will reconstruct it and make it like the Garden of Odan. All right. So the land is as the Garden of Odan before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, because he wants us to understand this garden is guiding them, is going before them, and they're walking in this garden. And if they happen to look behind them, it will be desolation. It will be a wilderness. Yeah, and nothing shall escape them. Let's go to Yasharaal chapter 37, verse 1. That's Ezekiel chapter 37, starting from verse 1. The hand of Yahweh was upon me and carried me out in Harawak in the spirit of Yahweh, and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. Now we know this scripture, and we did look at Ezekiel 37, but we looked at the part where he was going to make the two stakes, one in his hand, just to show us, to show you that there are two kingdoms. So now we're going to go back to the beginning of this particular chapter. And caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, there were very many in the open valley. And lo, they were very dry. They had no moisture, they had no spirit. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yahweh Allah Hayam, you know. Again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O you dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. So this is the awakening of the northern kingdom. All right. Right now, they are scattered, dry bones. And the only person that can wake them up is Yahweh when he speaks to them. And let me tell you something about this speech. In fact, I will come back to that. Let's go on. Verse 5. Thus said Yahweh Elohim unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. And I will lay sinews, that's tendons, upon you, that's connecting bone to bone, and will bring up flesh upon you, that's muscle, and cover you with flesh, and put breath in you, and you shall live. And you shall know that I am Yahweh. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied there was a noise, and behold a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. So they were standing, but they had no life, they had no spirit. Then said he unto me, Prophesy unto the wind. This is Ruach HaKodesh he's speaking about. Prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, Thus said Yahweh Elohim, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. And when he said slain, he's not talking about literal death. He's talking about spiritual death. They were spiritually dead, just like how we were spiritually dead until we were awakened. And his spirit breathed into us and made us alive. He quickened us. Ruach HaKodesh quickened us. All right, verse 10. So I prophesied as he commanded, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. And this army is who? Let's read on. Verse 11. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Yasharaal. Whole house, remember, he's speaking of the northern kingdom, the 9.5 tribes. All right. Behold, they say our bones are dried and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. So this will be the time when they are beginning to wake up, and the beast empire and the anti-Messiah will come out against them, and they will be prevailed against. So they're crying out to Elohim Yahweh for help, because this event, this war that will take place, will bring them to their knees, because the gods that they used to worship will be of no use to them. All right? And now they have one last chance, which is to cry out to Elohim Yahweh to say, we're done. We're going to be wiped out. Verse 12. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus said Yahweh Elohim, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Yasharaal. I am going to cause you to wake up, and I will put my spirit in you to quicken you, and then I will bring you in the second Exodus into the land of Yasharaal. All right? Because right now, they're lying in their graves as bones, scattered bones. Verse 13. And you shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened your graves, when I have quickened you by my Ruach, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, brought you out of death. You think you're living because you're breathing, you're walking around, but you're spiritually dead. And only when you are quickened, and that comes from you calling out to me, crying out to me, because your hearts now will be humble before me, repenting for all your sins and all your wicked ways, putting away all your pagan gods and your pagan worship. Now I have you exactly where I want you. Now I can quicken you and fill you with my spirit. Verse 14, and shall put my ruach in you, and you shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then shall you know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it and performed it, said Yahweh. And this is how he is going to get the glory from the northern kingdom. All right? When he will do this thing on their behalf, when he will save them from the beast empire and the anti-Messiah. Yes, he will allow many to, to be martyred because this will be their time of martyrdom. But the remnant he will save alive because they now have given up their pagan ways and they now believe in him, believe in his son. They now can sing his praises because he delivered them from the hand that was stronger than them. He ransomed them. All right? Now, there's something that let me see if it's written down here. Okay, let me read what is written here because what I'm going to say is already written here. Based on these three prophecies given by three different prophets, we can see that it will be the northern kingdom alone going into the second Exodus after the great war between them and the two beasts. There were many more prophecies given by prophets that add to this precept, but many people ignore and or misinterpret these prophecies, hence the false teachings. They glaze over them. Oh, that doesn't really matter. That doesn't really apply. Oh no, I'm going to pretend I didn't see that, or I can't explain that, so I'm just going to leave it be. But this is what I had. I had a dream. I had a vision, and this is what I was told the interpretation of this dream means. And this is what they go by. They don't go by scripture. They don't go by the revelation of the word, which is truth. They go by their own dreams and visions and deceits, the deceit of their hearts. All right. When Yahweh told his prophets to prophesy, like Yasharaal, it was to send his word out. And at the time appointed, Allah will activate his word, causing it to perform according to his will. So this is the point that I want to make. That's why I said earlier, there's no need for prophets and those so-called prophetesses that declare themselves as such. Because all that Allah needed to be spoken has already been spoken. This situation with the northern kingdom, the word has already gone forth from the mouth of the prophet on behalf of Allah Yahweh, and all that is waiting is for the time of its fulfillment when Allah will activate that word, because the word is gone forth. The word for the northern kingdom to be awakened and be bone come to bone, sinews, flesh, and skin and breath has already gone forth, has already been spoken. But it is inactive until it is activated by Ruach HaKodesh. Because there's a time appointed for that word to be activated in order for it to be fulfilled. And that's why we don't need prophets today, because all that we need and all that needed to be spoken has already been spoken by the prophets of old. The word is in the spiritual realm waiting for its fulfillment, for its time of fulfillment. And so these ones that are calling themselves prophets and whatever other titles they call themselves are false. All right? And when you look at the prophets like Yasharaal and Yasha'oya and Jeremiah and Danayal and see the substance that they prophesy, and then you listen to what these other so-called prophets and prophetesses so-called prophesied, it's like garbage and fruitfulness. They prophesy garbage. It has nothing to do with anything except what they hope for, what they want to happen to mislead you. And that is all grounded in divination. All right, let's read on. Therefore, there's no need for prophets today, as Allah Hayam have already utilized this ministry and it has fulfilled its purpose. So all the word that he wanted to go forth, it has all been spoken already. It's already been spoken. That's why after Yochanan the baptizer, there were no more prophets after him. Yes, you heard about this other prophet, but they were teachers. They weren't prophesying like on the level of Yochanan the baptizer, Danayal, Yasha'oya. They were not prophesying on that level. In fact, there were no prophecies coming from them. All right? And that's why you have the ones today. They're not prophets. All that is needed now is for the word to come into its fruition at the time appointed. And Allah Hayam has the time appointed for all of his word, all of his prophecies to come to pass. And it's up to us to understand this. And once we understand this, then when people come to us with their prophecies, we can look the other way and know that, no, you're not real. You're not for real. All right? So that's the ending of this part 10, the second Exodus. I will link the extended studies that I've done. And this is just a brief look at this precept, this that have a lot of false doctrines surrounding it based on ignorance. That's all it is. Ignorance. All right? And with all your soul and with all your might. And with that, I will say, Shalawam, Shalawam. All praises to the Most High. Abba Yah.